All right, got a 2009 A4 Audi Quattro in here. He said the blower motor's not working. So it looks like I can't get to the wires unless I take the glove box out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that first. And then we'll test the wires and make sure everything's good there. And then put a blower motor in it. Hopefully it doesn't need a resistor. I was kind of looking around online. It looked like they're like $900 just for the resistor. So I hope it doesn't need that. It doesn't work on any speed from what I can tell. So I think it's just going to be the blower motor. So let's go in there and check it out and find out. There's a bunch of 8mm bolts we have to take out. We have to take out the radio, or part of the radio. There's special tools for that. I'll show you those, and then we'll start taking it apart and get down to the wires and test them. All right, so I'm inside the car here on the passenger side. I've already took this little panel off on the side because we have one 8mm bolt we have to get to. If you look on the bottom of this panel, towards the bottom right there, there's a little notch you can stick a screwdriver or interior tool in, and that will pop that off. It just pops off. And then we're going to take that 8mm bolt out. And my ratchet, the little nipple broke off that holds the socket on there, so I'm probably going to have to stop this video a lot and do the remove stuff and then start it back up. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take the 8mm out here, and then we have a bunch inside on the bottom, and then take that radio part of the radio out. So this is the little radio module we have to take out. I went ahead, I got these tools. You can get them, some auto parts stores have them, some like Walmart and stuff has them. They may not have them anymore. They're kind of, anyway, I got them, these are Riley's a while back. And you just slide them in and then slide this out. And I'll try to get this out here and show you. This is the end that I put in for the Audi. The A4 is this end here. It just goes in a little slot right here. And it just kind of pushes in and pushes on that tab, and then you can slide this out. So I'm going to go ahead and slide this out the rest of the way. And you probably could use this really small screwdriver, like a glasses screwdriver or something like that, or a small pocket screwdriver. You'd probably do the same thing as those tools do if you don't want to go out and buy the tools or whatever. I think they're pretty cheap on Amazon or whatever if you know you're going to do this job in advance. And I think O'Reilly's, they were like 10 or 15 bucks. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and unplug this connector here and move this out of the way. And then and the reason why we're doing that, there's one bolt back in the back here on these that need to be removed. And then the rest of them are all out here in the open. So I'll go ahead and get this unplugged, and then I'll show you where the rest of the bolts are at. All right, so we're looking in the glove box here. You got one bolt way back here. Hopefully you can see it. And then there's one way over here. This is the reason why I take that radio module out. There's one right here. So those are two 8mm. We're gonna go ahead and take those out real quick. Like I said, my ratchet's kind of messed up right now. My Milwaukee ratchet, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do it off camera. But what I'm doing right now is just taking these two out. They face you, one on each end, and then there's some right here, up here. I'll show you, and then we have some on the bottom. This one's actually missing some on the bottom, so I don't know if if this blower motors went out before. Someone's had this dash out for something else, but it's actually missing some. But anyway, we'll get those two out, and then I'll show you where the rest are up here. All right, so we're looking at the glove box here, and all you gotta do is just go up underneath it right here. You can see there's a bolt here, there's a bolt there, there's one in the middle, and then there's two on the end. So we're just gonna take out those 5 bolts, 8mm, and then I think we're done up top, I'm pretty sure. And then we'll go underneath and get the rest of them. There's a couple lights hooked up to it, some other stuff, but take out these 5 that are underneath, and you'll be done with the top. And this is what I use to get the bolts that are way back in there. I just took a bunch of stitches and put them together, and got it out. So anyway, I'll take those top ones out, and then we'll pick it back up. So my glove box came out. I didn't skip anything here. There is bolts a hole in the bottom. This one just doesn't have it. Someone previously before me must have done some work in here. Maybe the blower motor, maybe something else. And took the bolts out and left them out. So I didn't have any. After I got all the ones inside and on the top out, I didn't have any left. But I just pulled the radio wire harness through to let it go. Then you have this yellow connector. You just kind of push in on these 2 tabs on each side, and that pulls it out. And then you should be able to just remove it out of the way. And I'll show you here on the bottom where your bolt should be. So if you look underneath it, if yours has all your bolts, you should have one here on one end and one here on the other end. And I believe there might be one right here in the middle. I can't remember. But those are what you're going to be looking for when you get underneath there. Like I said, this didn't have it, so I didn't show you, but anyway. So now this glove box will move out of the way, and we'll get down to that blower motor, and we'll check it and make sure that we have power going down there, and it's just the motor itself. All right, so I want to remove the two 5.5 millimeter bolts that hold the resistor on. It goes in there like this, obviously, and there's two, one on each side. I went ahead and removed those, and I unplugged it. I got the motor on, or the fan blower on right now. I'm just going to check and see if it's got power coming out of it. If I can do that. All right, so we do have power coming out, and if I plug it in, the blower motor does not run. Or we got power going in anyway, I should say. So we got power going into this resistor. Let's check and make sure it's sending power out to the blower before we make any determinations. And we do have power coming out of this resistor, so this motor should be running right now with it plugged in. So I'm going to do one more step. I'm just going to pull the motor out and check it on with the power probe, but it looks to me like we have a bad motor. And you can see here, this has been replaced before. This says 2010 Audi A4, so this is a junkyard item here. And then the bolt's missing for the blower motor right here. So someone's been here before and replaced this stuff, probably all junkyard items, and it's went out again. So yeah, that's where we're at anyway. So anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and with this bolt being out, actually I think there's one more. See if they put that one back in. There's one more, I think. There's that one, and then I think this rotates out. All right, there might be one more in there. Let me double check, and then we'll take this out and test it, bench test it. All right, so I just got the power probe hooked up to a battery here on another car, and I'm gonna just go ahead and send power to this motor. Ooh, that's interesting. The motor actually works. So let's go back to the car real quick and see. Well, before we didn't get anything with the car. The motor's working, so I'm wondering if we're not having a full 12 volts out of that resistor. Let's go back and test that. This is the reason why you bench test things and double check before you go buy a bunch of parts. And I did notice that resistor was out of a used car, so let's go back and see what's going on with that resistor. And maybe it's a resistor, this blower motor is okay. It doesn't sound great. Kind of sounds like a mouse inside of it, but that's not. It does work. So let's go ahead and check that resistor and see what's going on. All right, so I think I figured out what happened here. When I took this motor off to bench test it, I actually turned this motor a couple times to see how tight it was. It was a little bit tight, and then it kind of loosened up. And that's why I think it worked when I bench tested, because sometimes the contacts will get stuck in a certain spot when the motor's going bad, and then when you can hit it or move this a little bit, it'll start working again. So I don't think it's a resistor. I think our electrical check on that was fine. I think what it is just because I moved this cage a little bit when I went to go bench test it, and I think I inadvertently temporarily fixed it. If you see here, now if I got it all plugged in, you can turn it on, and it works. So what happened was, and you can hear it's kind of whistling a little bit. I think what happened, like I said, is when I moved this, it just made it work again. That's very common on a motor like this with the contacts that go around it. Sometimes they'll get stuck or get burnt, and then you can kind of turn it and they'll work again. So we're still looking at a motor on this. So I'm going to find out what we're going to do with that, if we're going to get used or new or what. I know he didn't want to spend a lot of money on it, but the new one looked like it listed anywhere from 170 to 300 for like a rebuilt or like a, O'Reilly's or AutoZone or whatever. So I don't know what he wants to do with this, but he said he was talking about selling it. So I'm not sure, but I'm going to go get the part or figure out what he wants to do about the part, and then we'll put this thing back together. All right, so here we are 2 or 3 days later. Got this blower motor. Got it online. I think we got it on Amazon. I don't know, for whatever reason, he didn't want to buy one from an auto parts store and spend a little extra money. I don't, If you got an Audi, you got to expect that. You're going to spend more money on parts, but he didn't want to do that. So here we are. We're going to throw this in, make sure it works. Installation is pretty much reverse how we took it out. It's pretty simple, but we'll go over it anyway. And I'm going to plug it in before I even put it up there and make sure it works. I'm sure it will. We don't have a wiring problem or anything. Like I said before, when I spun that cage, it probably loosened it up and allowed it to start working again. All right, so there's really no trick to putting this in. Just kind of get it. You want this facing you, your plug, and you know how to align, but you want to kind of start off to the left a little bit, push it up in there, and then rotate it towards the passenger side. And then once you get your bolt hole lined up and that back in the slot over there, you're good to go. So now what we're just going to do is put the two 5mm bolts back up, plug it in, and put this back up there, and then we'll just put the glove box back in. So, all right, so we're just going to test it. I just got the new one plugged into that module real quick. I'm going to reach over and turn it on. And it's low. And we're going to crank it up and see. All right, so it is modulating and doing all the speeds, everything that's supposed to do. Go ahead and shut it back off. So looks like we're good to go here. I'm going to unplug it from the module real quick, and then we're going to put it back up there, rotate it, click it in, and then we'll use two 5.5s and bolt that control module back in there. They call it a control module, resistor, whatever you want to call it, back onto it, put that little foam piece and all that good stuff. So let's go ahead. You just stick it up in there and you rotate it. It locks in just like you take it out. It does help when you take it out. See if I can see it. Right here, if you pull this back a little bit, it'll allow you to pull that past that point, and then you can rotate it out. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're just going to try to put it, or I'm going to put it back in and rotate it back in and snap it in place. All right, so you got your two 5.5s for your module. One on each side. And if you're like me and your bolt's missing up here on this, when you turn this and lock it in, if you don't have the bolt or whatever, it's not a big deal because this module goes back up in there and there's no way this motor can back off anyway. So that's pretty much it on this. We're going to go ahead and just slide the dash back in and put the bolts back in. There's no reason to bore you with that. But sorry about the little miscommunication there with the diagnostics. We did have power coming in and coming out on this. And anyway, ended up being just the motor was seized, and when I turned it, it started to work. So I actually didn't even think about that when it happened. I started to look at wiring diagrams and start thinking about what could be possibly wrong, and then I realized that it's nothing wrong with this part of it, the car. It's just that I moved that fan cage a little bit, and that's what made it work again. So anyway, don't forget to put this back up there and put your dash back in. You got the 12, well, probably what, 5, 7, 8, 9 bolts or so to go back in, and then you're good to go. The radio just slides back in once you plug it in. There's no tools to put it back in. It just slides in and locks in place. So that's about it on a blower motor for a Audi A4 Quattro. Thanks for watching. As always, God bless.